Hello and welcome to this presentation of People Friendly Driver. And thank you for your interest in creating safer roadways for all road users. My name is Gail Rochetta. I'm a League of American Bicyclists cycling instructor and Bike Newport's community educator. This presentation covers how to legally share the road with people on bikes. We'll be discussing these topics today: that bicyclists are people too, how to share the road with them, the different types of cycling infrastructure, common accidents and crashes involving cyclists, what taking the lane means, and what we teach cyclists. First and foremost, we want motorists to understand that the cyclists you see on the roadway are people just like you. They just happen to be choosing another mode of travel. People choose to go by bike for many different reasons. Maybe it's for the exercise or for the fresh air. It could be for environmental reasons, for the fun of it, for the lower cost of cycling. There are so many reasons people choose to go by bike, but regardless of the reason, they are people just like you, who have loved ones expecting them home safely. Our Rhode Island roadways have a lot of cars on them, but they are available to many different types of users. People going by bike are one of these user groups. Bicyclists are entitled to be on the roadways in Rhode Island, and in fact in all 50 states, and are recognized as vehicles of the road. So let's find out how you can safely share the road with them.
It may sound strange to a driver, but sometimes the safest place for a person to ride their bike is in the middle of the road. Cyclists often call this taking the lane. It is deliberate, safe, and legal. When a person on a bike positions themselves in the middle of the lane, be patient and do not try to pass unless you can put at least 5 feet of space or more between your car and the cyclist. Then, when there is no oncoming traffic, slowly pass the person biking. Here are a few reasons that you may see a person on a bike taking the lane. The lane may be too narrow for the cyclist to ride outside of the door zone and share the lane with cars. The cyclist may be preparing to turn left or continuing straight when there is a right turn approaching. The cyclist is able to maintain the same speed as the flow of traffic. The cyclist is attempting to be more visible to other traffic. There is debris on the side of the road, which makes it dangerous for the cyclist. Everyone deserves to arrive at their destination safely, so be patient and remember to share the road.
So, bicyclists belong on the roadway. Motorists should treat people on bikes as vehicles on the road. Many communities recognize the need for increased safety for people outside of cars and are providing roadway infrastructure to help keep everyone safer. Here are some examples of infrastructure that you may see popping up in your community. There are several approaches that engineers and planners are taking to communicate a cyclist's direction of travel, intended lane positioning, and indications of routes that are popular with cyclists. Bike boxes are spaces near the stop line of an intersection that are specific for people on bikes. It allows cyclists to position themselves at the front of the line so that they are more visible to motorists when crossing the intersection. As a motorist, be sure not to stop in the bike box so that cyclists behind you may use the box as intended. Shared bus and bike lanes. Rhode Island does have some of these. The most notable example is in Providence, where there are a few streets with dedicated bus-bike lanes that allow both RIPTA buses and cyclists to use them while keeping regular car traffic separate. Sharrows is a shared lane marking. We see sharrow markings all over Rhode Island roadways. What do they mean? Well, they remind drivers that cyclists have a right to use the full lane. They also show cyclists the safest position to ride, which is usually away from the door zone of parked cars, so that area too close to a parked car that would allow a cyclist to get hit by a car door opening into their path of travel. They also indicate recommended bike routes through areas where there isn't room for a dedicated bike lane. What sharrows are not, they are not bike lanes. Cyclists are still sharing the lane with cars. They don't give cyclists exclusive right to the space. They also don't provide any physical separation or protection. So sharrows are basically the minimum level of bike infrastructure. They're useful for marking bike routes and raising awareness, but they're not as safe or comfortable as dedicated bike lanes or protected bike infrastructure. They're often used on streets that are too narrow for bike lanes or on designated bike routes that go through neighborhoods. Rhode Island has sharrows on various streets in many cities. These are often on quieter residential streets that are part of the bike network but don't have room for dedicated bike lanes. Bike signals. Yes, Rhode Island does have bike signals. These are traffic signals specifically for cyclists, often showing a bicycle symbol instead of or in addition to the regular traffic lights. Providence has installed bike signals at several intersections, particularly where there are protected bike lanes or where cyclists need specific signal phases to navigate safely through intersections. These became more common as the city expanded its cycling infrastructure over the past several years. Bike signals really help in situations where cyclists need a different timing than car traffic to cross safely, where there are protected or separated bike lanes going right through intersections, and also at complex intersections where bikes need clearer guidance separate from vehicle signals. Communities are using directional paint to help all road users understand the intended line of travel for people on bikes. Next, we have the protected bike lane, my absolute favorite. This type of lane protects the cyclist from motorized vehicles and offers safer ways for cyclists to travel within a downtown area. Buffered bike lanes are similar but do not offer that physical protection. In this one pictured here, the buffer or extra space is just paint on the road. Roundabouts are a proven way to slow motorized traffic and make intersections safer for all users. Rhode Island does use directional pavement markings to help guide cyclists and indicate their intended travel path. This includes bike lane arrows, painted arrows within dedicated bike lanes showing the direction of travel. Shared use pathways are off-road infrastructure that provides safe places for people on bikes, as well as walkers and rollers, to travel away from traffic. Let's now look at the most common accidents involving motor vehicles and bicycles and learn how motorists can avoid initiating one.
Knowing the most common types of crashes between drivers and cyclists is the first step to avoiding them. Being a safe driver means driving cautiously. The four most common types of crashes that occur between drivers and people on bikes are the left hook, the right hook, overtaking, and dooring. Let's discuss these common crashes and discuss simple ways to avoid them. In the left hook, a driver fails to yield to an oncoming cyclist as the driver turns left through an intersection. Often, the left hook is the result of a failure by the driver to actively see the person on a bike who is clearly visible. Or the driver underestimates the speed of the cyclist and turns left without giving the cyclist enough space. People on bikes can often be traveling at the same speed as motorized traffic. Do not assume a person on a bike is traveling slow. A driver can avoid a left hook crash by slowing down, yielding to oncoming traffic, using a turn signal, scanning the entire intersection, and waiting until it is safe to proceed. The right hook is when a driver passes a person biking in the same direction as them and then turns right into the path of the person on a bike. A driver can avoid the right hook crash by slowing down and staying behind the person biking. Drivers often misjudge the speed of cyclists, which can lead to serious crashes. A driver can avoid the right hook crash by using your right turn signal, checking your rear view and side mirrors, and turning your head to check blind spots. It is always safer to stay behind a bicyclist and wait until they pass through the intersection to execute your right turn. One of the deadliest crashes for people biking is when a driver overtakes them. An overtaking crash is when a driver attempts to pass a person biking and does not leave enough room between the car and the person on a bike. By passing a person on a bike too closely, the driver may startle them, or worse, the driver may hit the person and cause a serious crash. Keep in mind that in most states, drivers are allowed to cross over a double yellow line in order to safely pass a bicyclist when there is no oncoming traffic. A driver can avoid an overtaking crash, which could kill someone, by slowing down and waiting until it is safe to pass, putting a car's width of space between you and the person on a bike, and only passing when the road ahead and oncoming traffic is clear so that you may give the person on a bike at least 5 feet of space. Finally, dooring is another easily avoidable crash. Dooring is a term to describe a driver or passenger opening their car door into the path of an oncoming person biking. The consequences can be severe, either hitting the person on a bike or causing them to swerve into traffic behind them. Before opening your car door, look over your shoulder closest to the door and check your rear view and side mirror to make sure there aren't people on bikes, scooters, or other vehicles coming up behind you. Open your door slowly with caution. As a driver, it is your responsibility to make sure it is clear before opening your door. Thanks for sharing the road.
As a driver, it is your responsibility to use patience and caution when passing a bicyclist. Rhode Island's law states that the driver must drive to the left of the bicycle at a safe distance that is sufficient to prevent contact with the person operating the bicycle if the person were to fall into the driver's lane of traffic, and returning to the lane of travel once the motor vehicle is safely clear of the overtaken bicycle. Before you pass the cyclist, assess the situation. Be cautious and treat bicyclists as you would any other slow-moving vehicle. In Rhode Island, you may cross the double yellow line to allow up to 5 feet of space between your vehicle and the bicycle, as long as it is clear up ahead. If it isn't, wait to pass until traffic clears. When you see the bicyclist in your rearview mirror, return to your lane. Slow down when visibility is low. An illegal courtesy is when a motorist is trying to be courteous but does something unexpected or illegal. For example, stopping in traffic to allow a cyclist turning left. We encourage motorists not to give illegal courtesies and cyclists not to take illegal courtesies. 80% of crashes involving a motorist and a child on a bike are the fault of the child. Children may not know the rules of the road, so slow down and pay extra attention when driving in areas where children can be expected, school zones, neighborhoods, and around parks. Here are just a few things we teach people about riding on our roadways. Control or take the lane when appropriate. Be visible and predictable. Ride on the right. Stop at all stop signs and lights. Obey first come, first served rule at intersections. Yield when changing lanes. And choose correct intersection positioning. Be predictable means things like following the rules of the road, signaling your turns, riding with the flow of traffic, and in the rightmost lane that serves your destination. As a person on a bike, you want people to understand your riding behavior. Being predictable is a key component to staying safe when riding with traffic. Let's review the main points of this presentation. Treat bicyclists as drivers of vehicles, with the consideration that they are outside of a car and therefore more at risk. All road users can take action to avoid bike-car crashes. Pay special attention at intersections and driveways. Understand when and why cyclists take the lane. Abide by the 5-foot rule when passing. Roadway users are all people. Share the road to keep people safe. Thank you for your attention to this presentation, and good luck with the rest of your training.